Why am I a Christian? I think some people would say, oh, you were raised a Christian. And so that's just the way it is. You didn't have a choice in that. And that there might be some shred of truth to that, but I remain a Christian because of, kind of like I mentioned before, kind of its coherence, just how well it explains and makes sense of the world. As someone who's interested in not just going to church and these things, but interested in people and the struggles that people go through, really giving a foundation to why we should help other people. And those are questions people don't think about. If you really, I don't want to say put someone in a corner, but you really pursue that, some people don't actually have an answer. And so you say, oh, I help people because it's right. Well, why is that right? Because people are valuable. Why are people valuable? Oh, wait a minute. And as a Christian, I believe that all people are made in the image of God, and so inherently have eternal worth and value. And that's no clearer manifestation of that than Jesus, God himself, coming and dying for us.
Where'd you learn that?
I guess for me it would be my parents in the early stages of introducing me to the church and learning all the Bible stories and seeing it practically lived out in the home life. I can't describe how valuable that was to me. Some of my favorite Bible verses are, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 is a very popular one, where it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, God, and he shall direct your paths. That's especially comforting because sometimes we can feel really smart, and we think we've got everything figured out, but often we find ourselves at a loss, and our wisdom is exhausted. We plumb the depths of our ignorance, and we're saying, where do I turn? We can turn to God, and he has a plan for us. And so we don't have to fret and worry that we may go through times of uncertainty, because God is looking over us. And so he's willing to guide our path, not just make suggestions and say, well, if you do this, this is how it turns out, but to walk with us as we go through that. I also like Jude, Jude 24 and 25. I guess 24 says, now unto him who's able to keep you from falling, and to present you faultless in the presence of his glory. It goes on. But I really like that, to keep you from falling, because sometimes there's this notion that we're just going to keep making the same mistakes at the same frequency forever. But there's this hope of progress. I think as young people, it's kind of easy to feel immortal, right? Typically not really concerned about issues of mortality, barring, the experience of family members. We have our whole lives ahead of us, figuring out our careers. It's a very exciting time. But there are sobering realities that everyone has to face. And it's valuable to have a firm foundation upon which to face some of those difficult realities. And so I think that Christianity has so much to offer, not just in terms of a societal way, like I have friends and, fellowship dinners and lunches with and all those nice things, but also in terms of these really deep questions that people throughout all of time have really had to face. A song that I have seen impact other people very profoundly is As the Deer. I was at a Florida Hospital South volunteering with hospital ministries. And after we had concluded, one of the volunteers came to me and said, hey, I know someone who's in the ICU. Would you be willing to come and play for this person? So I said, of course. But I just started playing, and that was one of the songs I played. And I turned around to leave the room, and the family's there. And they're very appreciative. They said, oh, thank you so much for coming and sharing music with them. I said, of course. Interacted for maybe 30, 40 seconds, and I walked out. A couple weeks later, I received word that unfortunately this person had passed away. And that volunteer who had asked me to play said the family would like you to play at this person's funeral. I thought, wow, okay, I don't know this family. I never, to my recollection, met this young woman other than when she was in an induced coma. But I said, of course, I'd be willing to play. And so I go to a local church where the service is being held, and I look around and the place is packed. And I hardly recognized anyone. I could hardly recognize the family. I'd only seen them for probably 30 seconds. And so at that time, I had chosen to play As the Deer and then kind of tied it to Sweet By and By. So kind of merged the two songs together. And I walk up to the pulpit to play, and I look down and to my left, and there's a casket, and I realized that that's the first time I had seen this person's face, was her in that casket. And so I start to play, and people are crying, and I look around thinking, wow, the only thing that has me up front of this pulpit, in front of all these people I don't really know, is 5 to 7 minutes of music. And so I shared the song, and people were appreciative, and that was that. But that to me is a really poignant example of how music, even in the absence of lyrics, if people know the lyrics, they know the message behind it. How impactful that can be, not just for the person going through a situation, but how widely that can radiate out. A lot of times all people need is someone to sit there and listen to them. Someone to take a genuine interest in what they're going through. Someone to just give them a helping hand. The simplest things can really make a big difference in people's lives, as it has made a large difference in my life.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.